Welcome to Ladies of Another View. I'm back, and I'm here today with Emily and Donna. But up first, we have another wonderful guest, Patrick Chisholm, who is the author of Holy Health, How Church Makes You Healthier and Happier. Welcome to the show, Patrick.
Thank you for having me on, Patty. I appreciate it.
And thank you for writing the book. We need to know how to get happier, right?
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
And healthier.
And healthier. And
Well,
healthier.
church is one way to do it. That's for sure.
And this isn't just your opinion, right? So tell
Right.
us about the book.
I'm just a reporter. Just a report.
Okay.
I'm reporting on about hundreds of academic, scholarly, peer-reviewed studies that have been done over the past 20 or 30 years. And out of there've probably been thousands of studies on that topic. And I picked out about a couple hundred of them and reported on those findings in the book. So.
It's pretty remarkable. Explain how is it possible that religion can make you happier and healthier with all these studies verifying it? How is it happening?
Right. Perhaps the most surprising thing is how it can make you healthier. It's kind of one can see how it can make you happier, it increase your sense of meaning and purpose, and help you, interact with other people, and just be closer with God. Obviously, graces from God, but as far as how it can make you healthier, it's quite extraordinary. Church-going people who go to church weekly or more than weekly, live an average of 7 years longer, 6 to 7 years longer than non-church-going people. And that was based on a 1999 study out of the University of Texas at Austin. And there's the graph there. So church going, not going to church basically is a risk factor in dying an earlier death than every bit as smoking or interactivity or drinking are risk factors. So those are the statistics. Those are for adults or people overall, and for African Americans, it's even more remarkable. African Americans who go to church more than weekly live on average 14 years longer than African Americans who don't go to church.
That is amazing.
So that is quite amazing.
I know why.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a church in Tennessee, and we were in the back, and they're singing, and oh my gosh, it was so much fun. I could go here every week, and just the singing from your heart and soul is beautiful.
The social interaction has a lot to do with it. Many studies have been done showing that social interaction and camaraderie and interacting and singing with other people, and just the various activities you do with church, whether it be Bible study or groups and committees, boards and committees, men's groups, women's groups, ushering, greeting, lecturing. Those all help your mental aspects, which in turn boost your physical health. So it's just incredible amount of studies have been done over the past few years, and they're still coming out with those studies.
What I would love is we always hear about risk factors or ways to be healthier, and you'll talk about diet, exercise, smoking, but they never include religion.
Right.
It's almost like they're afraid of it. Well, I wonder, do you have any, what's your perception on why are they afraid to include religion?
Probably it's organized religion has a lot of rules and things that go with it, and people, which are countercultural, very countercultural, especially in today's society, where the religion, church going, and religious affiliation have been going down in our culture. Has been just going in the opposite direction in terms of both morals and ethics, whatever it may be. People just oftentimes don't want to abide by the ethical and moral precepts that religion teaches. So And it doesn't get reported, though. The health benefits of religion doesn't get reported on that much. I mean, obviously, you see in the mass media various ways to boost your health, whether it be, eating right, getting enough sleep, exercising. They often leave out religion, and it's ironic because there have been so many academic studies on that subject. So I think the word needs to get out there. I mean, I know of only 2 other books that have been written on this subject, 2 books for the consumers. There have been several books for scholars and health professionals, but 2 books geared towards consumers. It's been about 20 to 25 years since any books like that have come out. So I decided, with all this wonderful research, and actually I myself was influenced by this about 10 years ago. I started to read all the amazing studies on this subject, and that prompted me to become more active in my church and join the men's group, which in turn prompted me to take my faith much more seriously than I ever did before. So, and that's a good thing too, because it's not just church going. There's pew warmers, and there's people that really take their faith seriously. And the studies have shown that the more devoutly religious people are healthier and happier than church going people who aren't so devout, who may be going to church for other reasons. Maybe there's, because they want their children to go to church, or their spouse is, wants them to go to church. So,
and you do make that point. The more engaged you are, the more you benefit from church. And I want to look at some more charts here. Let's put these up on the screen quickly, and we can talk about them. The percent who died after heart surgery within 6 months out of 232 patients at Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, based on religiosity and frequent community participation. Now, that's a big difference here.
Right.
So,
actually,
go ahead.
The scholars deduced that the death rate and mortality rate was anywhere from 7 to 14 times higher among non-church going people than among church going people, and also non-church going and people who also don't actively participate in community activities. So it just goes to show it's not just the church going, but it's the community participation and social activities that one participates in. So if someone is not only goes to church, but is also actively involved in their church, that's very beneficial for their health, for their mental health, for their physical health. And it's just amazing. So that study was done in the 1990s, and many similar studies have been done since then. So,
and we just have a minute, and I would say that a lot of people could say, "Oh, well, yeah, sure, religion," but really, it's the community involvement, it's the volunteering. Fine, it is.
It's the support.
It is
the support that you get when you're having a problem. You can say, we need to pray together.
Right, but that's part of it. And you're not going to convince us, among us, that God doesn't make a difference in a relationship with God, because it does give you peace of mind. And the fact that you might volunteer and create friendships and support one another, well, yeah.
Less stress, all that stuff.
That's not separate from religion. That's kind of a part of it. But we're going to talk more about that and some more risk factors and benefits when we come back with Ladies of Another View on Beck. Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck, and we are once again joined by author Patrick Chisholm, who has written the book Holy Health, How Church Makes You Healthier and Happier. And I want to get right into another one of your graphs that I think really is a reflection of what's going on in society right now, that it affects mental illness. Going to church makes you mentally healthier, and no religion in your life, you're more prone to mental illness such as depression. Do you want to talk about this, Patrick?
Right. Thanks, Patty. And that graph depicts young adults, probably teens and 20s and people in their 30s. From 2009 to 2019, the rate of mental illness went from 18% of that population to 29%. And there's no coincidence that religious affiliation plummeted. In 2009, about 27% of young people were affiliated with religion, whereas in 2019, 40% were unaffiliated with religion. I think it's no coincidence that mental illness has been rising. As a matter of fact, a Harvard epidemiologist named Tyler Vanderweel deduced that 40% of the rise in mental illness in recent decades is directly attributable to the decline in church going.
You know, we can say, and we already did say that there's, you know, with church going is the community and there's volunteering, but there's something to be said about a relationship with God. When you feel like my life is all on my shoulders, that's a lot, because there's a lot we can't do. We can do very little, but with God, we can do anything, you know, that we kind of align ourselves with God's will. And we feel like He's directing us instead of us trying to figure out everything for ourselves. So I could just imagine that crushing, overwhelming feeling you might have if there's no God in your world.
Right. And the scholars who, many if not most of the scholars who do these studies are agnostics or atheists, because they're affiliated with top universities and colleges. They're just doing this. This is basically what the science says. So obviously, they're not going to say that religious people are happier, healthier because of graces for God, because that's outside the scope of science. Now, they do talk about what the pathways are, or the active ingredients. Okay, it's having a sense of meaning and purpose, thanks to religion, participating in social activities, face-to-face interaction with other people, and also putting others before yourself. Voluntary activities, charitable activities have also been found to really boost mental health. But there is also supernatural graces from God, and as any religious person would know, that's a big factor in especially boosting mental health in addition to physical health. And there have been some intercessory prayer studies that have verified that prayer actually works. But anybody who goes to church and religious doesn't have to read those studies. We know that prayer works. So.
I think of the saying, in times of trouble, you know, that prayer helps, Mother Mary comes to me, or whatever. You know, there's little things like that I always say, oh, when I'm in times of trouble, I love having a prayer that I can say and just say it. I don't have to, you know, whether it's a blessing before a meal or, you know, Our Father or anything like that. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I think that's true. And I think, too, even tying back to that mental illness and how it depicted a lot of young adults. In your research, did you find that younger adults were not as healthy? Because it seems, you know, in today's generation, more and more young adults fall away from their religion.
They're not, except maybe they could, in some respects, be more physical healthy in some sense, but in some sense, there is, you know, people are going out and jogging and eating the right food, in the sense of getting healthy. But there's a counter trend to that. Actually, life expectancy has been rising over the past couple centuries, until 2014, when life expectancy in the United States actually started to go down. It's largely because, even despite the healthy habits trend, largely because of deaths of despair, deaths from suicide, alcohol abuse, and drug abuse. And that's really been skyrocketing throughout society, and especially among young people. And that was even before COVID. With the COVID lockdowns, with the social isolation, you know, most of us have read the statistics about the skyrocketing rates of self-harm and mental illness among the young.
You know, I wonder if there's an element, and I had your book and I didn't read the whole thing. I don't know if there's an element of religion brings you humility too. That you're not in control, and you're supposed to be more humble in a way that brings you comfort and peace. Because if you're prideful, that is not a peaceful place to be, because pride goes before the fall, and then you're humiliated. And if you humble yourself ahead of time, there's a big burden that's lifted off of you.
That's right. And that's good. That applies in the mental area and the physical area. It's, ironically, ill people in hospitals when there's religious people, when they're in hospitals, they're typically in the hospital for a shorter period of time than non-religious people, largely because the illness, they're sort of in a transcendent state where the body doesn't matter as much. They're not as worried about their body, and they're more at peace with God and with the state of things in the world and with their bodies. So ironically, that results in faster recovery. So they get out of the hospital quicker than non-religious people who are more worried and concerned about and more anxiety ridden about not only their their physical state, but also when they're in hospital. Being in the hospital also can really affect somebody psychologically too, which has a big effect on the physical.
I want to look at some more charts because before we run out of time, because there's so much good information here. Grade point average. We always want our kids to do well in school. Look at this. What a difference from 3.21, very engaged, to 2.92. Once again, there's a lot of other contributing factors. I'm sure family engagement, just that positive family environment. And I just think the family itself is going to be stronger. Marriages are stronger, right, Patrick?
Definitely among religious church-going people. I have a whole chapter on that.
And I've seen statistics, the couples that pray together, and Mark and I always say God saved our marriage because otherwise I think we would have killed each other. Well, starting with we did follow the
family that prays together stays together.
And the fifth commandment, thou shalt not kill. So,
Absolutely.
You get through the tough times, and my husband and I, we've been praying together like every night for about 3 years. We did family prayer before, but now just the two of us will pray together, and that really brings us up, and we know there's something supernatural going on before us. I want to look at another chart because we're running out of time. There's so much good information. I got this from Pew Research, that actively religious people tend to be happier. So on the left side are the people not engaged. On the right side are those that are engaged, and you can see those differences. I know the print is small.
And those depict about 26 different countries throughout the world. So
it isn't just like, oh yeah, you Americans think this, religious freedom, but I love that it's worldwide. And,
that's right. That's right. Even whether it be from the richest countries to the poorest countries, the more religious people tend to be the happiest.
I was thinking of going to Guatemala, and I went to church every day, and it was like beautiful to be there and around all the people and singing. And
so poor religious people are way happier than rich non-religious people. So with that, let's get back to church, right? Okay. So thank you, Patrick, for joining us. I love your book, and I hope other people will pick it up too.